Hello students, from today we will have lectures on anatomy and physiology. So what is anatomy? Anatomy is study of the structure of the body parts and physiology is functions of the body parts. So first is Hello students, from today we will have lectures on anatomy and physiology. So what is anatomy? Anatomy is study of the structure of the body parts and physiology is functions of the body parts. So first is basic unit of the body is cell. So what is cell? It is a functional and structural unit of the body. So what are the components of the cell? So cell is having the covering that is called as cell membrane. It is semi-permeable, that means it is only half permeable. So the things from inside the cell to outside is not permeable, and from outside to inside cell, that is water or other chemicals, are permeable. So it is called as semi-permeable in function. So now what is protoplasm? Protoplasm is the liquid constituent present inside the cell membrane. So protoplasm is consist of cytoplasm plus nucleus. So what is cytoplasm? It is water plus all biochemical compounds like sodium, potassium, chloride or carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, amino acids. So all these present inside the cell that is with water, it is called as cytoplasm. And nucleus, the central portion of the cell, is called as nucleus, which performs the function of cell division and it carries the hereditary characters from one cell to other cell, that is from one generation to other generation, because it contains DNA in form of chromosomes. And the other things which are present in cytoplasm, they are mitochondria. So the mitochondria, its main function is powerhouse of energy. So ATP is generated, that is energy, and therefore it is called as powerhouse of energy. Endoplasmic reticulum, so it is a network of the thing which is present around the nucleus, is called as endoplasmic reticulum. Golgi complex, it is sac-like structure present near the nucleus or in cytoplasm, it is called as Golgi complex. And ribosomes, these are again small structures present on endoplasmic reticulum, they are called as ribosomes. So endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi complex and ribosomes, they help in protein synthesis. And sac-like structures present in cytoplasm, they are also called as lysosome, which contains lytic enzymes for the lysis or breakdown of the foreign material. Thank you. Now today we will see about tissue. So what is tissue? It is aggregation of cells to perform single function, is called as tissue. So there are total 4 types. So one is epithelial tissue. So it is of 2 types, simple and stratified. And simple is squamous, so mainly it is blood, that is liquid conductive tissue. Then fibrous tissue, elastic tissue, adipose, reticular tissue, and cartilage. So cartilage is of 3 types, hyaline, fibrous and elastic cartilage. So function of connective tissue and cartilage is connect systems, covering, protection and shock absorption by adipose tissue. Third is callus tissue. So it is mainly bone, and bone is of 2 types, spongy and compact. So when the Haversian system is complete in that bone, it is called as compact bone, and when it is not complete, it is called as spongy bone. Or other types of bones is long bone like femur, humerus, short bone like carpals, metacarpals, irregular bone like vertebra, sesamoid bone like patella. So sesamoid bone means from the tendon the bone is developed, it is called as sesamoid bone. So function of bone is protection of body organs, site for hemopoiesis, that is present in bone marrow, then calcium and phosphorus storage, and 2 or more bones form joints, and joints are required for the locomotion or movements. Fourth is muscular tissue. So it is of 3 types, skeletal muscles, so which connects to the bones, so it's called as skeletal muscles. The function is movement of the body. Then smooth muscles which are present inside the organs, so movement of the organs, and cardiac muscles which are present in heart, so movement of the heart like systole and diastole. So systole is contraction of the heart and diastole is relaxation of the heart. Fifth tissue.
So nervous tissue is a specialized tissue which transmits the stimuli. So in characteristics, neuron is a structural and functional unit of the nervous system. The cytoplasm present in the nerve cells is called as neuroplasm, and the covering is called as neurolemma. Now neurons have lost permanently the power of division because they do not have centriole, so they do not divide, and the function of the neuron is transmission of nerve impulses. So here also you can see cell body, then short fibers are dendrites and then long fiber is axon, and the cytoplasm present in axon is exoplasm and the membrane is called as exolemma, and the myelin sheath, that is fatty covering, is there. So the myelinated fibers are present in central nervous system and non-myelinated fibers are present in autonomous nervous system. Now we will see classification of the neurons. So according to the structure, they are divided into three types: unipolar, bipolar and multipolar. So unipolar, it gives a single fiber, single process which divides into dendron and axon. The bipolar neuron, it has two processes, one dendron and one axon. Multipolar neuron, it has several dendrons and one axon, and it is seen in motor neuron of the spinal cord. According to the functions, they are divided into sensory, motor and mixed fibers. So sensory neuron is called as the neuron which carries impulses from sensory organ like skin, eye, ear, tongue. So these are all sensory organs. So from sensory organ to the central nervous system, that is brain or spinal cord. So that is called a sensory fiber. And the motor fiber which carries impulses from central nervous system to the effector organ where we have to take the action, that is muscles. So it is called as motor neuron. And the mixed fibers, they contain both the parts of the sensory and motor fibers. Third type is according to the myelin sheath. They are divided into myelinated nerve fibers or non-myelinated nerve fibers. Hello students, today we will see about circulatory system. So circulatory system consists of blood vessels and heart. So we will study heart in detail. So heart is located in between two lungs in the thorax. Then coverings of the heart, there are four coverings. So here the formula of four coverings: epicardium, myocardium, endocardium, pericardium. Pericardium of two layers, inner visceral and outer parietal layer, and then in between that the fluid which is called as pericardial fluid present, and it prevents it gives protection and nutrition to the heart. So four chambers, two atria and two ventricles. So two atria means left atrium, right atrium, and two ventricle means left ventricle, right ventricle. Four valves, two atrioventricular valves. So one is bicuspid and tricuspid valve, and two semilunar valves. So aortic and pulmonary valve. And functions of valves is to prevent backflow of the blood. Four great vessels: superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, pulmonary vein, pulmonary artery and aorta. Total three circulations are there: pulmonary circulation, systemic circulation, coronary circulation. So pulmonary circulation, when there is the exchange of blood between lungs and heart, it is called as pulmonary circulation, and it takes place through pulmonary veins and pulmonary artery. Systemic circulation, exchange of blood between the body and heart. So it takes place between all four chambers and all four great vessels like aorta, superior vena cava, inferior vena cava. Then coronary circulation, it is the branches of coronary artery, that is left and right coronary arteries. They arise from aorta and then supply oxygenated blood all over the atria and ventricles. It is called as coronary circulation. So it is through coronary arteries. So cardiac cycle, there are four steps in that, or stages. So first is atrial systole. So when atrium contracts, it pushes its blood to the ventricles. Then ventricle contracts, it pushes its blood to the aorta and pulmonary arteries. And then the blood is from aorta supplied all over the body, and pulmonary artery blood goes to the lungs for the oxygenation. And then atrial diastole, the atria relaxes and the blood from all over part of the body is received in the atrial chamber. So atria are receiving chambers. And then ventricular diastole. So ventricular diastole, the ventricles are ready to receive the blood from atria, and the cycle, that is cardiac cycle, continues. Thank you. So these are the parts of the respiratory system. In this diagram you can see. So it continues with the nose, then pharynx, that is nasopharynx, then larynx, then trachea, it is a windpipe, and then bronchus. There are two, right bronchus and left bronchus, and then bronchioles, and then it consists of the lungs. So covering of the lungs, there are two coverings. It is called as pleura. So inner visceral layer and outer parietal layer, and the space is called as pleural space, and in that pleural fluid is present, and function of pleural fluid is mainly to lubricate this pleura and the protection of lungs from injury, shock, and then gives nutrition to the lungs. Breathing movements in man, so it is a mechanism in which two movements are there, that is inspiration and expiration. So what is inspiration? It is intake of the air, and expiration is expulsion of the or removal of the air. So in that diaphragm, intercostal muscles, ribs and sternum, these are the parts mainly required for the breathing mechanism. So in that diaphragm, in inspiration it is an active process, and expiration is a passive process. So in inspiration, diaphragm contracts and it flattens, and expiration, diaphragm relaxes and it moves upwards. Then intercostal muscles contract. In expiration, intercostal muscles relax. Then ribs and sternum. So in inspiration, ribs and sternum moves upwards and outwards, and in expiration, the ribs and sternum moves downwards and inwards. So in this way, inspiration, in that thoracic volume is increased and pressure is decreased, and therefore air is moved in. म्हणजे व्हॉल्यूम वाढतो, प्रेशर कमी होतं आणि मग हवा आतमध्ये येते. जसं आपण फुगा फुगवताना आपण व्हॉल्यूम वाढवतो आणि मग हवा आतमध्ये जाते. अँड देन इन एक्सपिरेशन the thoracic volume decreases because air pressure increases, and then air is moved out. So like it happens in a balloon की ज्याच्यामध्ये आपण बाहेरून प्रेशर दिला तर हवा बाहेर निघते. So this is in short inspiration and expiration. Thank you. Hello students, today we will see excretory system of man. So excretory system, that is urinary system of man, it contains kidneys 2 in number, ureter 2 in number, then urinary bladder 1 in number, and urethra 1 in number. So the main part of the excretory system is kidney. So here you can see kidney. The outer portion is called as cortex, the inner portion is called as medulla, and here you can see calyces, and the bulging of that is renal pelvis, and renal pelvis then opens into the ureter. So number of kidneys 2, and location mainly it is in lumbar region. So the unit of the excretory system is nephron, that is uriniferous tubule, and you can see here this diagram and the parts. So mainly it is, first is glomerulus, which is capillary network, then Bowman's capsule, which is a cup-shaped structure at the start of the tubule, then renal tubule, which consists of proximal convoluted tubule, which arises from the Bowman's capsule, then continues with the loop of Henle. It has two parts, ascending loop and descending loop, then distal convoluted tubule, and then collecting duct, which opens into the pelvis, and then from pelvis the urine goes to the ureter, and then to the bladder, and then through the urethra it is excreted out. So functions of kidney, mainly formation of urine, water balance, acid base balance, electrolyte balance, and other maintenance of blood pressure, volume, and synthesis of erythropoietin hormone, which is required for the erythropoiesis. Formation of urine takes place in 3 stages: ultrafiltration, reabsorption, and secretion. So ultrafiltration takes place in Bowman's capsule. The liquid portion from the blood is filtered through Bowman's capsule except the cells and proteins. Then reabsorption of the unwanted substances like glucose, amino acids, that are taken in the proximal convoluted tubule. Then secretion of harmful substances like ammonia, urea, potassium, hydrogen ions, they are secreted into the distal convoluted tubule, and then it goes to the collecting duct, from collecting duct to pelvis, pelvis to ureter, and then when bladder is full it is excreted out, that is called as micturition. Thank you.
So today we will see digestive system, which is mainly required for the digestion of the food which we take in form of carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and a few vitamins and minerals. So carbohydrate is digested and absorbed as glucose, lipids digested to fatty acid plus glycerol and then absorbed, and proteins digested to amino acids and then they are absorbed in the blood. So first part is mouth, which is also called as buccal cavity, which contains tongue and teeth. So tongue mainly required for the mixing of food with saliva and swallowing. Teeth required for the breaking of the food. So totally in adults 32 number of teeth, and then types are incisor, canines, premolars and molars. Salivary glands which are present in mouth, they are parotid, submandibular and sublingual, which opens into the buccal cavity, and then they secrete saliva, and which contains amylase, which is required for the digestion of the carbohydrate. Second part is esophagus. So food goes to esophagus and then to stomach. So stomach three parts: fundus, body and pylorus, which is required for the digestion of the proteins, which contains pepsin, and water, glucose, drugs absorption. The next part is small intestine, which is of three parts: duodenum, jejunum and ileum. So this small intestine contains three types of juices for digestion of food. So intestinal juice for digestion of proteins, bile juice for digestion of fats, pancreatic juice for carbohydrates. So in small intestine, the whole food is getting digested, broken down and then absorbed. Large intestine is of three parts, like colon, which is descending colon, ascending colon, transverse colon, sigmoid colon, and then rectum, and then anal canal and anus. So mainly large intestine is for the storage of the undigested food and then defecation, that is removal of the undigested food from the anus. Then accessory glands are present in digestive system. They are salivary glands. Second is liver. So it is present in right side of the abdomen, which secretes bile, and that is mainly for the digestion and absorption of the fat. Gallbladder, which is a small sac-like structure near the liver, which store and concentrates bile. Pancreas, which is present in C-shaped curve of the duodenum, and it has two parts: exocrine part, which secretes pancreatic juice, which contains amylase and for digestion of carbohydrate, and endocrine part, that is beta cells of Langerhans, which secretes insulin, and it is mainly for the regulation of the blood sugar level. So this is about digestive system. Thank you.
Hello students, today we are going to study skeleton system. So in that, what is skeletal system? So it is internal framework of the human body which gives support, protects and provide lever for locomotion and other movements like eating, walking, talking, running, jumping. So all movements are because of the skeletal system. So human skeletal system is made up of mainly 206 bones, and it is of the 20% of the body weight, and main function is to give support, forms the locomotory functions, then it gives muscle attachment, and there is marrow in the long bones, so that helps for the erythropoiesis and other blood cell production, and it maintains the shape of the body. So first part is skull. So it is mainly skeleton of the head, and it is of many cranial bones like frontal, parietal, occipital, temporal, sphenoid, ethmoid, and the main function of the skull is to protect the brain from the injury. Then second is the vertebral column. So it is a column present in the back side. So mainly there are vertebrae which are irregular in shape, and there are total 33 vertebrae in the vertebral column, and they are of different types according to the location. So they are cervical 7 number, thoracic 12 number, lumbar 5 in number, sacral and coccygeal 1 in number. And the function of the vertebral column is to support the skull and to protect spinal cord, and then all the back movements, and helps in all the lower limb movements like walking, running, jumping. Then thoracic cage. So it is mainly made up of sternum, 1 bone, ribs total 12 pairs, that is 24 in number, and thoracic vertebra 12. So main function of the sternum is to protect the internal organ, that is heart and lungs present in the chest. Then ribs, they are attached to the sternum, and few ribs are free. So those which are attached, they are called as true ribs, and those not attached, they are called as false ribs. So these are the thoracic cage which functions for the protection of the internal organs like heart, lungs and aorta. Then joint, it is a when many bones come together they form joint, and joint is mainly for the locomotion of the human body. There are different joints like fibrous, cartilaginous, synovial joint, and inside the joint there is a fluid that is called a synovial fluid, which acts as a lubricant and provides nourishment and then maintains stability and prevent the end bones to get separated from each other. So because of the joints, there are all upper limb movements, lower limb movements, or locomotion, that is movement of the human body from one place to another place, is possible because of the joints. And the movements like flexion, extension, pronation, supination, eversion, so all these movements, neck movements, back movements, all these movements are possible because of the joint. So this is about the skeletal system in short. Thank you. Hello students, welcome to this session. So today we are going to study male reproductive system. So in this diagram you can see male reproductive system. Testes, epididymis, vas deferens, seminal vesicles, prostate gland, Cowper's gland and penis. So let's study each in detail. So first is the most main important organ of the male reproductive system is the testes. So they are paired. Oval testes lie outside the abdominal cavity in man in a skin covered special sac called scrotum. In transverse section they contain many seminiferous tubules, and these cells undergo process of spermatogenesis to produce spermatozoa. Between seminiferous tubules are numerous microscopic interstitial cells are there. They are also called as Leydig cells, which produce a male hormone, that is testosterone. And this testosterone is responsible for the all male characteristics. So let's see functions of the testes. So function of testes main is the production of sperms, which is required for the fertilization with ova to produce a fetus, that is zygote and then fetus. Then second function is synthesis of male sex hormone testosterone by Leydig cells, that is interstitial cells, and this hormone is responsible for male secondary sexual characteristics such as deep voice, male hair distribution, that is beard, and axillary or the hair on chest, then typical distribution, fat, build. All these male characteristics are responsible because of the hormone testosterone. Second is epididymis. So it is located on the surface of the testes. The function of this epididymis is storage of sperms before ejaculation and increase fertilizing power of the sperms. Third is a vas deferens. So it is the duct which arises from the epididymis. It is also called as ductus deferens or vas deferens, and it enters the abdominal cavity, then arches over the bladder and opens into the back of the urethra. Hello students, welcome to this session. So today we are going to study female reproductive system. The parts of female reproductive system are ovaries, they are 2 in number, uterus 1 in number, uterine tubes 2, then vagina, Bartholin's and vestibular glands, and mammary glands. So first we will see in detail ovaries. So they are 2 oval bodies located below and behind the uterine tubes, and the function is to produce eggs or ova that is required for the fertilization with sperms to form zygote and then fetus, and secretion of female sex hormone, that is estrogen and progesterone. So these estrogen and progesterone are mainly required for the female sexual characteristics like voice or short in height or hair pattern, and all characteristics of female, then pregnancy, menstruation, all because of the estrogen and progesterone hormone. Then second is the uterus. So both oviducts open into wider tube. The uterus measures 3 by 2 by 1 in size, inches in size, and the parts of uterus are fundus, body and cervix. So upper part is fundus, then central part is body, and cervix is a narrow portion opening into vagina. The cervix secretes protective antibodies, and natural acidity of vagina prevents the growth of harmful bacteria during and after menstruation. The uterus undergoes cyclic changes from puberty to menopause, and this is called as menstrual cycle, and then endometrium develops each month to provide nutrition to fertilize egg. The next part is uterine tubes. The uterine tubes consist of proximal part called oviducts and the distal part called fallopian tubes. At the distal end, each fallopian tube expands into funnel-like infundibulum having fringe-like projections called fimbria to catch the ova that is released in ovulation. Hello students, welcome to this session. Today we are going to study endocrine system. So what is exocrine gland? So there are two types of glands. So exocrine gland, the gland which releases their secretions into the duct, they are called as exocrine glands. Example, pancreatic gland or gastric glands. Then endocrine gland, the gland which releases their secretion called hormone into the blood directly without duct, they are called as ductless glands. So they are called as endocrine glands, and the hormone is a secretion of endocrine glands. The hormones, they are secreted in small amount, released directly into the blood, and then carried to the target organ through the blood, and they are specific in action. So first is the pituitary gland. So pituitary gland is located in the brain on the floor of the cranium. It lies in the sphenoid bone of the skull, and it is called as master endocrine gland because it controls all other glands by its secretions. Then there are two parts of the pituitary gland, that is anterior pituitary gland and posterior pituitary gland. So anterior is called as adenohypophysis and posterior is called as neurohypophysis because it secretes neurosecretory hormones. Now we will see hormones secreted by pituitary gland. So first is the anterior pituitary gland. So it secretes the hormone thyrotropin, which acts on a thyroid gland. ACTH, that is adrenocorticotropic hormone, it acts on an adrenal gland. It is present above the renal gland. It is also called as suprarenal gland. Then other hormones for the ovaries and testes are gonadotropins, then FSH, LH, prolactin, then growth hormone, then somatotropin, which promotes the growth of the whole body. Then posterior pituitary gland secretes two hormones, mainly ADH, that is antidiuretic hormone, also called as vasopressin. It is mainly required for the water reabsorption by acting on the kidney. And second is the oxytocin, which allows uterus contraction in a labor. Now next gland, important gland, is the thyroid gland. So it is present in the neck just below the larynx or Adam's apple in the males, and it consists of two lobes on either side of the trachea. Hello students, I am Dr. Rajshree Mutha, MBBS DPB, Diploma Pathology and Bacteriology. Currently I am working at SMBT Hospital as a lecturer in microbiology department. So today we are going to study about the nervous system. So this is basic structure of the or parts of the nervous system. So nervous system is mainly divided into three parts, that is central nervous system, peripheral nervous system and autonomic nervous system. The central nervous system is mainly of two parts, that is brain and spinal cord. Peripheral nervous system, this is the main contains is nerves which arises from the brain and spinal cord. So cranial nerves and spinal nerves. And autonomous system is composed of sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. The cranial nerves are of three types: sensory nerves, so they are 1, 2 and 8 in number. Motor nerves, they are 3, 4, 6, 11 and 12. And mixed nerves, 5, 7, 9 and 10. So total 12 pairs of nerves are present in cranial nerves, which arises from the brain. Now we will see coverings of the brain. They are also called as meninges. So brain and spinal cord are surrounded by three connective tissue membranes, and they are called as meninges. So cranial meninges, they are covering brain, and spinal meninges, they are covering spinal cord. The outermost covering of the meninges is called as dura mater. It is tough membrane. The middle layer is called as arachnoid matter, and the innermost layer, which is vascular and it is attached to the brain, is called as pia mater. Then the space between dura mater and arachnoid matter is called as subdural space, which contains the blood mainly. And arachnoid matter and pia matter, which contains the space, is called as subarachnoid space. Sub means below. So subarachnoid space between arachnoid matter and pia matter. So it mainly contains the cerebrospinal fluid. and the pia matter and arachnoid matter, also called as leptomeninges. Now let's study cerebrospinal fluid. So it is a clear fluid that surrounds the brain and spinal cord. So this CSF is produced by specialized cells, that is ependymal cells present in the choroid plexus of the ventricles of the brain, and about 125 ml of CSF at 1 minute is produced and about 500 ml is generated every day. The function of cerebrospinal fluid is to protect brain and spinal cord from the injury. Also it provides nutrients in form of glucose to the brain and spinal cord, and the waste they are generated, they are removed through the cerebrospinal fluid. So these are main functions of the CSF. So location of CSF, it occupies the subarachnoid space, that is the space between arachnoid matter and pia matter, and the ventricular system around the brain and spinal cord. So it fills ventricles, cisterns and sulci. Sulci means these are the depressions, as well as the central canal of the spinal cord. There is also connection from subarachnoid space to the bony labyrinth of the inner ear via perilymphatic duct, where the perilymph is continuous with the cerebrospinal fluid. And the significance of this is when there is leakage from inner ear, it may produce CSF rhinorrhea, means the CSF is throwing through the nose. It is called as CSF rhinorrhea. So this is a clinical significance of the CSF. So collection of CSF is done by LP method, that is lumbar puncture method, and it is also called as spinal tap. So here lumbar puncture needle is there. So physician will first clean the part selected, that is the space between L3 and L4 lumbar vertebra. L3 means third lumbar and L4 means fourth lumbar vertebra, the space between two vertebrae. So with cleaning with spirit swab, betadine spirit swab, the needle is inserted into the intervertebral space, that is space between two vertebra, L3 and L4 preferably, and then it will go into the skin, then bone, and then the cavity, that is CSF filled space in the central canal of the spinal cord, and then with help of syringe the CSF is collected, and then it is collected in a bulb for the examination. Hello students, welcome to this session. Today we are going to study sensory system. So in that first sensory organ is skin. So it is forming the covering of the entire body. It has two layers, epidermis outer and inner. Inner is called as dermis. So outer epidermis is divided into four layers: stratum corneum, stratum lucidum, stratum granulosum and stratum malpighian, then which contains melanin pigment and gives color to the skin. The dermis contains sweat glands, connective tissue, sebaceous glands which produces sebum, the sweat glands produces sweat which regulates the body temperature, hair follicles for the protection or sensation, adipose tissue for shock absorption, then nerve endings for the sensation of temperature, pain, temperature, pressure, and few blood vessels. So in this diagram you can see epidermis and dermis. The functions of skin, mainly it is protection from the external injuries, shock, then general sensation of touch, pain, temperature, pressure, then temperature regulation by sweat production, and absorption of oily substances, ointments, then vitamin D production, because skin contains dehydrocholesterol and is converted into vitamin D by action of sunlight. So, and which is the main mainly required for the bones growth. So eye parts are mainly outermost covering is called sclera. Then the function is mainly protection of eyeball. Then cornea, it is an anterior transparent membrane mainly for the reception of light rays, that is vision. Then last portion is the retina, innermost layer, and the image fall on the retina and the complete vision is because of the retina. The iris, it is a pigmented diaphragm which lies between cornea and lens, and it functions to regulate the amount of light. Pupil, opening in the center of the pupil. So by constriction or dilatation because of the light changes. So in dark the pupil dilates, and in more light it constricts. Lens, it is biconvex structure between anterior and posterior segment of the eyeball, and the main function is refraction of light. Then conjunctiva, it is externally to sclera, and it has mainly two parts, palpebral and bulbar conjunctiva. So palpebral conjunctiva over the lids is used to see anemia, and bulbar conjunctiva over the eyeball is used to see if it becomes yellow, then used to see jaundice. The functions of eye is mainly vision. The eye is a special organ of sight. It is constructed to receive stimuli of rays of light on retina, and by means of optic nerves to transmit these to visual center of brain for interpretation, and then we can see the image.
Hope you find this session useful for your understanding and for your exams. Thank you.